even 2 years ago, I never come across anything on sexual violence during collectivization, which you would think that sexual violence always accompanies mass violence. But we know in the current war it has been instrumentalized as from the position of power, which sexual violence always is. And since 2014, when I first met Olga and went to the archives, and these seminars were conducive to asking these questions, I come across a lot of evidence, reports on sexual violence during collectivization and the famine. There were reports on genitalia mutilation, survival prostitution, rape. Everything was there. And of course, in the survivor testimonies, we rarely come across such testimonies or accounts of sexual violence, and there are many reasons for that, because many survivors at the time of the Holodomor, they were children, and they were either too traumatized to remember such things, or they were too young to remember and understand what was happening. For example, accounts of child saying, but my aunt or my mother was given a job at the canteen, at the collective farm canteen, but such jobs, they were lifelines for many families, and they were not given randomly. As evidence shows, usually these women were given these jobs because they were related to the family of local officials or perpetrators, or they were in relationships with these perpetrators that would give, through connections, would give them, they would secure such jobs. But also because when survivor testimonies were recorded, these questions were not asked. And also communist leaders themselves, with the exception, unlikely exception of Zatonsky, who was an advocate for the victims and said we should put serial offenders on, make show trials for serial offenders, and that would legitimize Soviet rule in the eyes of the peasants, that we actually punish somebody for these heinous crimes. They all avoid this subject. They all downplay the significance of it. But Soviet Ukrainian novels, and in my dissertation, for example, I look at discrepancies between archival evidence and novels, poetry, and plays. So early Soviet Ukrainian novel on collectivization, on the class war in the countryside, it's rich in details, and some details is actually shocking to see that sexual violence did exist.